What would you do if the family who mocked you for 15 years learned you'd secretly outrich them by billions? Forgive them or bury them with the truth? At 3:47 a.m., an email from Forbes shattered my world. Lila Grayson, crypto gaming titan, unveiled as billionaire. My pulse raced, dread and triumph colliding. 15 years of hiding my empire behind a queen's walk-up and a rusting Toyota, undone. In 2 days, they'd gather for a reunion, oblivious I'd raised their lodge for my helipad. Option 1, show mercy. Option 2, unleash hell. Comment your choice, 1 or 2. And don't forget to like and subscribe to Revenge Story, Graceful Revenge. I'd dreamed of revealing it all on my terms, a calculated unmasking I'd rehearsed in my mind for years. But Forbes had stolen my script, and now the spotlight burned. My phone buzzed relentlessly on the glass desk. Nadia, my assistant, then Ethan, my brother, then a swarm of unknown numbers, likely journalists circling like vultures. Ethan's voicemail cut through the chaos, his voice a jagged blade. "Lila, what the hell is this Forbes nonsense? They're saying you're worth billions. Call me back, or I'm coming over there." I deleted it, pacing barefoot across the cool marble, my reflection flickering in the polished surfaces like a ghost I couldn't outrun. Inside, a storm raged. Should I face them now? Rip open every lie they've swallowed and watch them choke on the truth? Or walk away, let the article do the dirty work, and leave them to rot in their ignorance? 15 years of hiding had built this moment, but I wasn't sure if I wanted victory or escape. If you love stories of resilience, reclaiming justice with style, and rediscovering your worth, hit that subscribe button for Graceful Revenge now. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. Let's dive into the power of elegant revenge and life's deepest lessons together. It began 15 years ago, Thanksgiving night. The Grayson dining room, thick with the scent of roasted turkey and Henry's cigar smoke. I was 23, fresh from Columbia, with a computer science degree they'd paid for, destined, or so they thought, to join Henry Grayson's real estate empire. Instead, I'd spent sleepless nights coding Ethereal Realms, a blockchain-based game where players could own and trade digital assets. My first sale, a pixelated sword, netted $10,000. I'd tried to share it, my voice trembling with hope. "Lila, this gaming crap isn't a career," Henry had roared, slamming his fist on the table so hard the gravy boat rattled. "You think people will pay real money for imaginary garbage? Get your head out of the clouds or you're cut off. No more support, no more safety net." Margaret reached across, her hand clammy on mine, her voice dripping with pity. "Sweetheart, we just want you secure. This crypto fad, it's a scam waiting to collapse, and we can't watch you ruin yourself." Ethan, 26 and already Dad's golden boy, smirked over his wine glass. "Let her crash and burn, Mom. She'll come begging when the rent's due, probably in a month." Clara, 19 and obsessed with her budding Instagram fame, rolled her eyes, barely looking up from her phone. "God, Lila, you're such a nerd. At least fail quietly so we don't look pathetic by association." Their faces burned into me. Henry's stern glare, Margaret's crocodile tears, Ethan's smug grin, Clara's disdain. I could have pulled out my phone, shown them the $10,000 transaction, fought for their belief. But something snapped. Why bother? I thought, my chest tightening. They'll never see me, not the real me. "You're right," I'd said, pushing my chair back with a screech. "I'll figure it out on my own." 2 weeks later, I moved into a cramped Queens walk-up, drove a rusting Toyota, and let them think I'd failed. By Christmas, Ethereal Realms had earned me $1 million. A memory flared. Easter, 3 years later. I'd driven that Toyota to their house, my bank account at $20 million. Clara had slipped me a $50 bill for gas, winking at Ethan as if I were a charity case. "Poor Lila, still chasing dreams," she'd cooed, her voice syrupy with mockery. I'd taken the money, smiled, and said nothing, while my first yacht sat docked in Miami, its hull gleaming under the sun. The humiliation stung like a lash, but I'd whispered to myself that night, staring at the Queen's ceiling, "They'll pay for this." Not with cash, with their pride. Another flashback, Christmas, 5 years in. I'd brought a $10 scarf as a gift, wrapped in cheap paper, while Clara flaunted a $2,000 designer bag, preening for the family. "Lila's still finding herself," she'd said, her tone dripping with condescension. My net worth was $50 million. I'd nodded, biting my tongue, but in my mind, I'd added it to the ledger. "One day, you'll choke on that smirk, Clara. One day, you'll all see." The Forbes article dropped at 6 a.m., a digital explosion. I watched it ripple across my triple monitor setup, the headline glaring, "Lila Grayson, 38, secret queen of crypto gaming, built a $4.7 billion empire in silence." The photo was one I'd fought to keep buried, a shot of me in a tailored black suit, standing before a holographic castle from ethereal realms that sold for $12 million in 2022. My phone erupted with notifications, a relentless assault. Clara's name flashed first. "Lila, what the actual hell is this?" she screeched when I answered, her voice shrill enough to crack glass. "Forbes says you're richer than, everybody. Is this a prank? Tell me it's a damn prank right now." I leaned against the window, watching a delivery drone hum past, its lights blinking in the dawn. "Read the article, Clara, then call me back." "Don't play games with me. I told my followers last week I paid for your stupid dinner because you're broke. I look like a total idiot now. You owe me an explanation, Lila." I hung up, a bitter laugh slipping out. Clara, with her $200,000 a year brand deals, loved playing the generous sister. Last month, at a family brunch, she'd waved her credit card theatrically, her voice loud enough for the whole restaurant to hear. "Lila can't cover it, guys. Don't worry, I've got her." I'd let her, sipping my coffee, while my portfolio ticked past $5 billion in the background, my silence a weapon I'd honed over years. Inside, a war brewed. Should I forgive her? She's shallow, not malicious, just a product of their world. Or should I expose her, let her followers see the fraud she's been peddling? Maybe I should just walk away, leave her to drown in her own mess. The intercom buzzed, cutting through my thoughts. "Ms. Grayson," Nadia said, her tone cautious. "Your mother's in the lobby. She's insistent." I checked the security feed. Margaret stood there, her Chanel coat pristine, but her face was a mask of panic as she argued with the guard, her hands flailing. "Let her up," I sighed, bracing myself. The first domino was falling, and I wasn't sure if I'd push the rest or let them topple on their own. The private elevator hummed open, and she stepped into my penthouse, freezing mid-stride. Her eyes darted wildly, from the Damien Hirst painting on the wall, a $15 million splurge, to the Swarovski chandelier dripping light like liquid diamonds, to the panoramic view of Manhattan that mocked their suburban cul-de-sac. "Lila," she whispered, clutching her purse like a shield. "What? What is all this?" "Welcome to my home, Mom," I said, pouring her a glass of water from a decanter worth more than her Lexus. "The real one, not the Queen's rat trap I let you visit." She stumbled to the sofa, sinking into the Italian leather, her hands trembling so badly the water sloshed over the rim. How did you?" 15 years, I said, my voice steady but edged with something raw. Since the day Dad said my games were a waste of time. Since you told me to get a real job. Since Ethan and Clara laughed me out of the house. Her breath hitched. But you struggled. We saw it. The tiny apartment. That awful car. You borrowed money from us. I never borrowed a dime, I snapped, the words sharp enough to cut. I asked you and Dad to invest in ethereal realms 10 years ago. $50,000, pocket change for you then. You laughed in my face. Dad called it internet monopoly money. The Toyota was a prop, Mom. A choice, not a necessity. Just like this penthouse, my jet, my island. She stared at me, her perfect composure fracturing like thin ice. You've been lying to us? For 15 years? I didn't lie, I said, leaning forward, my eyes locking with hers. I let you see what you wanted to see. A failure, a dreamer too proud to admit defeat. It was easier than fighting you every damn day. But was it right? A voice whispered inside me. Hiding the truth hurt me too, kept me small, even as I grew. Should I have told you, forced you to see? Or was this the only way? The intercom buzzed again, louder this time. Ms. Grayson, Nadia said, her voice tight. Your father and brother are here. They're demanding to see you, and it's heated. I smirked, a spark of something dark igniting in my chest. Send them up, I said, my tone cold. Let's make it a family affair. Expose them now, I thought, or hold back. Drag it out, make them beg for the truth. Henry stormed in first, his gray suit impeccable, his face a furnace of rage. Ethan trailed behind, his tie loosened, his eyes wild with a mix of fury and disbelief. They stopped dead, taking in the penthouse. Henry's jaw tightened as he clocked the view. He'd once bragged about owning slivers of it through his firm, a boast that now felt laughably small. Ethan's gaze snagged on the painting, then snapped to me, his hands balling into fists. Lila, Henry growled, his voice low and dangerous. Explain this Forbes bullshit. Billions! What kind of scam are you running here? No scam, Dad, I said, crossing my arms, meeting his glare head-on. Just a little game I've been playing. Turns out, imaginary garbage pays better than your strip malls ever will. Ethan stepped forward, his voice trembling with anger. You've been letting us think you're broke. Mom and Dad bailed you out. Rent, groceries, everything. And now this? You're a damn liar, Lila. I laughed, the sound sharp and cold, cutting through the room. Bailed me out? I never took a cent from you. I asked you all to invest. $50,000, chump change back then. You said no. Mom cried about my delusions. Dad threatened to disown me. I paid my own way, every single step. Henry's face darkened, veins bulging at his temples. You expect me to believe you built this empire, out of nothing, without us knowing? I didn't need you to know, I said, my voice rising, a fire I'd banked for years flaring to life. I didn't need your approval. I moved to Queens, coded all night, sold my first asset for $10,000, while you were busy telling Aunt Linda I'd end up homeless. By the time you were preaching real work at Christmas, I'd cleared $2 million. Margaret gasped, a hand flying to her mouth, her eyes wide with shock. Ethan blinked, stunned into silence. Henry's fists clenched, his knuckles whitening as he struggled for words. And the reunion, I continued, my voice steady but laced with venom. It's not happening at that lodge anymore. I bought it 6 months ago, tore it down overnight, and built a helipad in its place. You're all coming to my island instead. The jet leaves tomorrow. Your jet? Clara's voice screeched from the doorway. She'd slipped in unnoticed, her phone in hand, mid-streaming to her followers, her face a mask of outrage. "Lila! What the actual hell is this? You've ruined my life!" "Surprise, little sis," I said, my grin sharp with a hint of malice. "Guess you won't be picking up the check this time." Henry exploded, his voice booming through the room. "This is insane! You've made fools of us, parading around like some pauper while you're sitting on billions. What's the game here, Lila? What are you after?" "The game," I said, stepping closer, my eyes locked on his, "was surviving you. Surviving your lectures, your pity, your smug little world where I was always the failure. I didn't make fools of you. You did that yourselves, assuming I'd never amount to anything." A memory surged. Thanksgiving, 10 years in. I'd sat at their table, my net worth at $500 million, while Henry lectured me about responsibility, his voice dripping with disdain. "You're throwing your life away, Lila," he'd said, as Margaret nodded sadly and Ethan smirked. I'd driven home in that Toyota, my hands shaking with rage, and sworn, "I'll bury you in your own words one day." Ethan grabbed a crystal tumbler from the bar and hurled it against the wall, the crash echoing like a gunshot. Shards glittered on the marble as he shouted, "You think you're better than us? You think this stuff proves anything?" "No," I said, unflinching, my voice icy. "It proves I don't need you. Any of you." "But do I?" a voice whispered inside. "This anger, it's a chain too. Should I let it go, forgive them, or keep twisting the knife?" Clara dropped her phone, tears streaming down her face. "You've humiliated me. My followers, they're laughing at me now." "Good," I snapped, the words slipping out before I could stop it. "Maybe they'll see the real you for once. Or maybe I'm the monster here," I thought, kicking her when she's down. "Is this justice or just spite?" Margaret sobbed, her voice breaking. "Lila, stop! We're your family, please!" "Then act like it," I said, my tone cutting through her tears. "For once in your damn lives." But can they? I wondered. Or am I asking too much, expecting them to change when I've already written them off? My revenge had taken shape over years, a slow, deliberate burn. After that first million, I could have told them, shown the receipts, demanded respect. But their words haunted me. Fail quietly. I decided they'd learn the hard way, and I'd make it hurt. I kept the Queen's lease, drove that Toyota, wore thrift store jeans to family dinners. When Margaret offered $500 for rent, I took it, stashing it in a drawer, a trophy of their blindness, fuel for my fire. I bought the penthouse in 2015, cash, and stood at its windows, watching the city while they pitied me below. Every lecture, every smirk I cataloged, building a case for the day I'd strike. The lodge was my masterstroke. They'd picked it for the reunion, a $3 million property they loved to brag about visiting. I bought it 6 months ago, hired a crew to demolish it overnight, and installed a helipad in its place. I'd fly them to Grayson Key, my island, and unveil everything: dossiers of their dismissals, screens of my triumphs, proof they couldn't deny. I'd spent nights in my penthouse office, cross-referencing their words with my bank statements, compiling a ledger of their failures. It wasn't just about money. It was about power, about forcing them to see what they'd refused to acknowledge. But Forbes had shifted the timeline, and now I faced a choice. Is this justice? I asked myself, staring at the dossiers stacked on my desk. Or spite? Should I destroy them with this, expose every wound they've dealt me, or let them live in ignorance and walk away? The moral weight pressed down. Had I gone too far, turning their pity into a weapon against them? Or was this the only way to break free? The next day, I stood on the tarmac of my private airfield, the wind whipping my hair as 3 blacked-out Escalades rolled up. My family spilled out, Henry adjusting his cufflinks, clinging to his fading authority. Margaret clutching her pearls, her eyes red and swollen. Ethan scowling, arms crossed. Clara filming until Nadia confiscated her phone with a polite, "Not today, miss." Their faces were a gallery of shock, fury, and reluctant awe. "Welcome," I said, my voice carrying over the jet's whine. "I trust the ride was comfortable." "Lila, this is absurd," Henry snapped, his tone sharp. "We could have sorted this out at home. You didn't need to drag us into some billionaire fantasy." "It's not a fantasy, Dad," I said, my voice cool and firm. "It's my reality, and I'm done hiding it." The jet, Grayson Horizon painted in sleek silver along its side, gleamed under the midday sun. Inside, it was a temple of excess, leather seats worth more than Ethan's condo, a bar stocked with 50-year-old scotch, a Klimt painting I'd outbid a Saudi prince for at auction. They shuffled aboard, their whispers sharp, their eyes darting everywhere, taking in the opulence. "Is that real gold?" Margaret murmured, her fingers brushing the trim. "Yep," I said, settling into the captain's chair with a casual air. "Cost more than your house. Enjoy the flight." Clara flopped into a seat, glaring at me. "So you've been secretly loaded this whole time? While I've been killing myself for sponsorships?" "You could have joined me," I said, sipping a coffee, my tone deceptively light. "I offered you a marketing role 5 years ago. You said it was too geeky." She flushed, turning away, her hands twisting in her lap. Ethan leaned over, his voice low and accusing. "How rich are you, Lila?" "Really?" I met his gaze, unflinching. "Forbes says $4.7 billion. They're lowballing it. Try $6.2. He choked on his champagne, coughing violently, the liquid splattering his shirt. Henry's glass froze halfway to his lips, his face paling as if he'd seen a ghost. Mid-flight, the tension boiled over. Clara, half drunk on scotch, lurched to her feet and threw her glass, missing me by inches, the crystal shattering against the cabin wall. "You've ruined my life!" she screamed, her voice raw. "My followers! They're laughing at me!" "Good," I said, my tone cold, though a flicker of doubt crept in. Is this too much? She's crumbling. Do I stop or push harder? Ethan jumped in, his voice trembling with rage. "You've broken our trust, Lila. We're supposed to be a team, a family." "Trust?" I laughed, the sound sharp and bitter. "Like when you rejected my 2018 partnership offer? That no cost your firm $80 million, Ethan. Don't talk to me about trust." Henry slammed his hand on the armrest, the sound echoing. "Enough! This stops now. You're still my daughter, and I won't let you—" "Let me what?" I cut in, standing, my shadow falling over him. "Succeed? Outgrow you? It's too late, Dad. You lost that power 15 years ago." 2 hours later, we descended over Grayson Key, a 500-acre paradise off the Bahamas, bought after ethereal realms hit a $3 billion valuation. The helipad blazed with Lila Grayson in bold red letters, visible from orbit. Massive screens flanked the landing zone, looping footage of my game's biggest sales. A dragon mount for $8 million. A virtual city for $15 million. A floating fortress for $20 million. My family gaped as we touched down, the jet's engines whining to a stop. "Welcome to Grayson Key," I said, stepping onto the tarmac, the sea breeze tugging at my jacket. "My little escape." "Little?" Ethan muttered, staring at the resort sprawling ahead, a futuristic complex of glass and steel, blending into the jungle like a sci-fi utopia. "Your rooms are ready," I continued, my voice crisp. "You'll find some reading material inside. I suggest you take a look before dinner." The reading material was my ace in the hole, a weapon I'd forged over years. For Henry, a dossier of every pitch he'd dismissed, dates, quotes, and current values. His $1 million no in 2015 would have been $150 million today. His 2018 scoff at my expansion plan, $200 million. For Margaret, a timeline of her pitying comments synced with my milestones. Her poor Lila sighs while I bought my first yacht. Her "she'll come around" while I hit $1 billion. For Ethan, a report on how his firm lost $50 million rejecting my unproven startup, plus a missed merger worth $120 million. For Clara, her annual income, $200,000, versus what I made in an hour, $2.3 million. I'd spent countless nights compiling it, alone in my penthouse office, cross-referencing their words with my bank statements, building a ledger of their blindness. It wasn't just about proving them wrong. It was about power, about forcing them to confront what they'd refused to see. But as I handed out the tablets at dinner, a question gnawed. Is this ethical? Using their ignorance against them, am I the hero here or the villain? I gave them an hour to stew, then summoned them to the dining hall. The room was a spectacle. A 30-foot table carved from a single oak, crystal chandeliers casting rainbows, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the turquoise sea. On every wall hung framed copies of the Forbes article, my face staring back in stark black and white. They filed in, dressed for dinner but shell-shocked, their designer clothes looking cheap against the room's grandeur. "Sit," I said, gesturing to the table, my voice echoing through the space. "We've got a lot to discuss." Henry spoke first, his tone tight, strained. "Lila, we're surprised, stunned, really. But this display, it's excessive." "Excessive?" I laughed, the sound soft but dangerous. "Like when you bragged about your $2 million lake house while I sat on $100 million? Or when Clara paid for my $20 salad, smirking, thinking I couldn't afford it?" Margaret's voice trembled, barely audible. "We didn't know, Lila. You hid it so well." "You didn't want to know," I corrected, leaning forward, my eyes piercing hers. "Every time I mentioned my work, you shut me down. 'Get a real job,' you said, Mom. 'Stop playing with computers,' Dad barked. Ethan called me a charity case. Clara laughed at my nerd hobby while I was banking millions." Clara's face crumpled, tears welling in her eyes. "I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," I cut in, my voice like steel. "And I remembered every word. Watch this." I pressed a remote, and screens descended from the ceiling. A montage played. Audio clips of their dismissals synced with my triumphs. "Lila's wasting her life. $10 million valuation. She'll never make it. $500 million in sales. At least I can help her out. $1 billion net worth. We don't invest in internet trash. $3 billion empire." Their voices echoed through the room, their faces draining of color with each frame. "Why?" Henry rasped, his voice cracking, his hands trembling on the table. "Why hide it?" "Because you needed to learn," I said, standing, my shadow stretching across the room. "Success isn't your corner office or Clara's Instagram likes. It's vision, it's risk. It's what I built while you were busy pitying me." Ethan slammed his fist on the table, rattling the crystal. "So what, Lila? You're better than us? You think this makes you right?" "No," I said, my voice icy, unwavering. "It makes me free. Free from your rules, your doubts, your small, safe little world." But am I free? I thought, a crack forming in my resolve. This anger, it's a weight too. Should I forgive them, let it go, or keep pushing until they break? I hit another button, and the screens flashed a teaser for Ethereal Nexus, my next project, a virtual universe projected to hit $20 billion in 5 years. The room filled with holographic projections, sprawling digital cities, soaring dragons, players trading assets in real time, their avatars glowing in the air. This launches next month, I said, watching their jaws drop. I'm showing you now because I'm done pretending. No more lies, no more games. Silence fell, thick and electric, the holograms casting eerie light across their faces. Margaret broke it, her voice soft, almost pleading. We were wrong, Lila. I'm so sorry. I nodded, but the words felt hollow. Sorry doesn't erase 15 years, I thought. Do I accept it, rebuild with them, or expose more? Dig deeper until they can't hide from the truth? Or do I just leave, start fresh without them? Dinner was a tense affair. Lobster flown in from Maine, truffle risotto, a wine list that could have bankrupted a small country. But they barely touched it, their forks scraping awkwardly against plates. The silence was suffocating, broken only by the clink of silverware and the distant crash of waves. Afterward, they scattered to their rooms, dazed, leaving me alone in the hall. I stood by the windows, staring at the moonlit ocean, the horizon stretching endlessly before me. Nadia approached, her footsteps soft on the marble. Was it worth it? She asked, her voice quiet, cutting through the stillness. I thought of their faces, the shock, the shame, the flicker of something like respect. Maybe, I said, exhaling, my breath fogging the glass. Not for revenge, not anymore. For me, for finally being seen. But seen by who? I wondered. Them or myself? Freedom from their judgment or from my own bitterness? Later that night, a note slid under my door. Henry's jagged scrawl. I was blind. You didn't just succeed, you rewrote the damn rules. I'm proud, even if I don't deserve to be. Dad. I held it, my fingers tracing the words, then framed it beside my first $10,000 check. A pair of relics marking where I'd started and how far I'd climbed. Proud, I thought. Too late? Or just enough? The next morning broke clear and bright, the sun painting the island in gold. They gathered on the terrace, subdued but curious, their postures less rigid, their eyes darting to me with something new, wariness perhaps, or awe. I led them on a tour, first to the server farm, a cavernous room glowing blue with AI-driven machines humming, powering ethereal realms. Coders and headsets demoed Nexus, their screens alive with virtual worlds, cities rising from code, dragons soaring through pixelated skies. Next, the design studio, a chaos of sketches, holograms, and 3D printers churning out prototypes, the air thick with the buzz of creation. Then the beach, a stretch of white sand where I'd closed billion-dollar deals, a hidden bunker beneath holding my private vault, its steel door gleaming with stacks of gold bars from my first billion. Clara lingered by the screens, her fingers brushing a display, her voice small. You built all this alone? Not alone, I said, my tone softer than I'd intended. With people who believed in me, unlike you. Ethan asked, hesitant, his usual bravado gone. How'd you learn this? The coding? The business? While you were sleeping on me, I said, meeting his eyes. Nights in Queens, teaching myself blockchain, pitching to strangers who saw what you couldn't. Margaret squeezed my hand, her voice shaky, her grip trembling. We should have listened, Lila. We should have seen. Yeah, I said, pulling away, the warmth of her touch clashing with the cold in my chest. You should have. But can I forgive you? I thought. Or do I keep this wall up, expose every wound, and let you bleed? Alone on the cliff, the storm's roar mirrored the chaos I'd carried for 15 years. Their faces, once smug, now humbled, haunted me, but so did my own reflection. I'd won, not just against them, but against the version of myself I'd buried to prove them wrong. Victory wasn't the wealth or the island. It was the freedom to stop hiding. From them, from me. Truth cuts deepest when it's wielded with mercy, I realized. A moral etched in the wind. What about you? Have you ever faced a reckoning with family, choosing between vengeance and peace? Share your story below. If this hit home, subscribe, share with a friend, and catch the next tale of triumph on Revenge Story, Graceful Revenge. See you in the Graceful Revenge.